speaker guides.
Hello, I'm your host Chris King, and tonight I'm interviewing my two good friends, Roy Miller and Jared Cheney, about their podcast, Without the Dice. It's a choose-your-own-adventure, fantasy-themed story-building podcast. Would you gentlemen like to elaborate a little bit on?
You want to start off? You want me to?
Absolutely. So, Without the Dice is supposed to be a chance to influence the narrative tapestry. What we aim to do is give a story and give the audience a chance to change it based on, I'd say, big decisions that happen for the protagonist and maybe even some cases some of the extra characters that are in there.
Just the idea of the story kind of came to us. A lot of the times, myself and Cheney are both military personnel. We both are in love with tabletop role-playing games, as well as anything that falls within that general things, board games, video games, you know, name it, honestly. And a lot of the time you have it where you want to play a game with your friends, but you know, either your schedules don't line up, or you don't have enough time or the money to even get the materials, whether it be dice, books, things along those lines. I mean, anyone who's been a dungeon master for D&D knows the hardest thing about it has nothing to do with prepping the campaign and everything to do with getting people to actually show up on time. But because of that, especially with COVID and everything.
And that's actually where this kind of started, right?
Yeah.
Where we kind of sat down. Well, it slowed down a little bit in the lab. We were kind of sitting there, and we were like, okay, let's start telling each other stories, kind of thing. Let's try and play a game with it. And it's like, well, I don't have my dice on me. And yeah, I guess you could download an app and things like that. But Roy said, hey, let's flip a coin for it. Let's kind of decide the decisions that way.
And eventually we even moved away from the coin thing and just, going back and forth. I tell you a little bit of a story, You walk into this mansion, you see, this ghost kind of step down from the staircase in front of you, She has this beautiful face, long graying hair, and she goes to whisper to something to you, but you can't hear her. What do? Do you step closer to her? Do you run in one of the adjacent doors? Or do you try and run out of the mansion, or something else, because that's one of the biggest things about Without the Dice, is it's not just choose your own adventure like the books are, where you have the idea of, you have this choice, or this choice. If you all find something that we didn't think of and the community thinks it's good enough, you can actually comment it on our YouTube, and if it gets the most likes or votes, we will actually take that idea and make it so that's part of the story, because this isn't my story or Jarrett's story even. It's all of our stories. It's something that we create together.
So you think the audience getting to choose will help get them more involved in the stories, or?
Honestly, I hope so, because I'm not writing these stories for myself. I'm not writing it for just Jarrett or just for the people that are close to me. I personally think any author knows that when they're writing their stories, they're writing it to be able to give somebody something to read when they're bored, when they're at work, or when they need a distraction from the stress of life.
What inspired you to get into tabletop gaming?
Honestly, that would probably be, my dad was a huge individual for that. I think when I was 10 was the first time that I saw his giant box, and I mean he had everything from first edition, red box Dungeons and Dragons, all the way to Shadowrun, and I think there was over 50 or 60 books in there, and I'd sat down and read through a bunch of them, and I pestered him for hours and hours to get him to sit down and play with me, and when he finally did, it was amazing. I was kind of a poor kid, so when I was younger, eventually we had money, but in the beginning we didn't have as much. I didn't have game systems, so to me that was amazing to be able to really dive into something where imagination's the limit.
Did you and your father write stories together? Or did you use more of the
My dad,
published modules?
everything my dad did, I believe, was straight out of his head when it came to his D&D experience. Myself, honestly, I've always kind of steered away from modules. Even when I am running like Curse of Strahd or one of the other modules, like right now I'm doing Descent into Avernus, as you both know.
I do. It's an interesting one.
Even then, like, I can't find myself sticking straight to it because I like to go off and add fun and crazy things because otherwise, I might as well be reading a book. I like my party members and my friends to always be on their feet going, oh, what? You should never be able to have two people playing a game and it be the exact same thing. Two parties game should be completely different in my opinion.
That makes
Especially by
sense.
the end.
I can see how that might have led you to this podcast idea.
It's the dynamism behind it. Basically, giving the listener a chance to influence it adds a dynamic aspect to it, lets it change completely. Just like you were saying, you might give us an option we never would have thought of.
And to me, that's the coolest thing, the idea that I could be writing this story and I have a lot of things that I think of that, oh, this could happen or this could happen. And then as a DM when I play games, or GM depending on the game, I love it when I have this tapestry kind of written out and then my players go, nope. And I'm like, okay, this is really frustrating, but this is really cool. Let me rewrite that like 50 pages I thought I was going to do.
I was going to say, that must throw you for quite a loop if somebody picks an option you weren't really expecting and you've already probably planned out some of what you hope will happen in the story.
Well, honestly, it is, but I honestly love it too because it makes it feel like such a cooperative experience. Not that I'm just, how would you say it? That I'm just, playing a game by myself. It makes it feel like I'm really invested with other people, and to know that someone's paying so much attention that they're like, oh, what if this happens? I mean, it's exciting,
Yeah. When did you start telling stories, Jared?
So, not quite as early as you did. I'd say tabletop I didn't get into until I was maybe an older adult kind of thing. When I first joined the Navy, a couple of guys wanted to play, and I couldn't believe it. It was just like you said, it was a chance to really imagine things. I've always had a very active imagination. So I've always been able to sit there and really play things out in my head. And that's why I'd say I love to read and things like that. Choose Your Own Adventure was, oh my god. I could read those things all day, every day, and still enjoy them. But if I really dig deep, I would say the earliest was when I used to sit with composition notebooks. And I would just write out a character's name and have them dialogue between each other. And I would kind of imagine what was going on in my head. And I would take, like, Winnie the Pooh characters and things like that and have them rob banks and things like that.
Oh, yeah, gotta love that Winnie the Pooh fan fiction.
I mean,
Don't come after me,
I'd
no
listen
day.
to a Winnie the Pooh story.
Run, Piglet, they're coming, Piglet!
And we see a lot of that in the animation industry today, actually, so
Interesting.
you kind of have fun with it.
I mean, you have to, honestly. I mean, what's the point, right? Having fun with your work and your writing, I mean, that's the whole point of it. If you're not doing it to make yourself and others smile, then what's the point?
Suppose you could make them scared.
I mean,
And that's a whole other form of entertainment. I
mean-
love horror.
Me too, and that's something to touch on as well. Is we are doing some fantasy, but a lot of our stuff will touch into the different areas. We have currently going 4 different stories. Each of them definitely hit home on the fantasy side of it. One more the urban fantasy, 2 that are kind of pretty just hard, straight hard fantasy, and then another that hits more on the what would you call it? The video game fantasy. What's the term?
Oh,
Lit
I think
RPG.
Yeah, little RPG. I think the Izokai or something like
Yeah.
that is what they say in the anime community. Kind of like sword art, things like that.
Currently, we have those going. I think we have about 8 videos so far
Yep.
that are each of them range from anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes long. That's where we're looking at keeping it, but at the same time, we're still trying to get feedback from our viewers to figure out how long they want our videos to be and what's the most digestible. I'd love to do longer videos, but if shorter is what ends up being more uh, I don't want to say marketable because it's not about more enjoyed, you know. Then we could do that as well. We're currently doing 1 video a week, uploaded every Monday. But we're also talking about bumping that up to 2 videos a week, just so we can be able to give a little more out for our listeners.
Are you each working on all the stories at the same time, or do you have some kind of division of labor there?
Generally, we rotate for these new stories
So
specifically.
So we've been doing a swap. 1 week it'll be myself, and then the next week it'll be Jared. But coming up with our next one that we were talking about that'll be being posted on Thursdays. We are actually doing a very interesting idea where it's going to be 2 different characters within one story. And since it'll be 2 different characters, it'll be different narrators depending on which character's currently talking for that scene.
Very cool. What are each of your favorite stories that you're working on? You each do 2, I guess.
That's correct. Originally, Arsum used to be a background story. I kind of wanted to put together for a D&D game, and I was really excited for experimenting with a few of the elements. I won't go into them yet because maybe they'll still pop up in the book series. But honestly, when I sat down and started writing Project Sin, I immediately fell in love with the concept, and honestly, that's become kind of my little child here as we're going along.
Yeah.
So the 2 that I have currently going is The Trials of Rothgar, which kind of follow this character Skamos, who's he lives in the city of Rothgar, where to be able to get a job and to be able to get placed to different occupations, you actually had to participate in these trials, and depending on how well you did on certain things in the trials is what kind of job you get. Everything from the lowest thing of a city sweeper all the way up to being like a royal palace guard. Having been able to write about it, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that was honestly going to be my bread and butter. But my second story, which is The Hidden District, was just kind of this small little barely fleshed out pea of an idea that I had, and as I wrote more into it, it has the urban fantasy kind of feel. If you've ever read the Dresden Files or like the Iron Druid Chronicles, I definitely can say I derive a lot of inspiration from them. Jim Butcher is amazing, and Kevin Hearn, just wow.
They're quite talented.
And I love their books, and being able to finally put myself into the position of writing that kind of fantasy, not only do I have a lot of respect for them because it is definitely difficult to be able to merge that fictitious area with the real scenarios and be able to mix that well, but it's also really cool. Having written about that enough, though, I think that's going to be one of my favorite series because there's so much I want to touch on with it that I can just see it going in a million different directions, and seeing how the players are going to be able to vote on different things, it'll be even better because there's so many ways it can go that I don't even see yet.
Pause real quick.
Dun, dun.
15. All right. So, gentlemen, what can the audience do best to help you continue to write these lovely stories?
Honestly, for the audience, the probably 3 main things I would say. Of course, like, comment, subscribe. We can be the person who says that. But when I say comment, vote on the stories. We want to hear your opinions. I mean, without the votes, without the comments, without the support from the community, we're just a bunch of guys talking at cameras, honestly, talking at videos. And, you know, I could care less about that. But
Right.
being able to hear what you guys think of our stories and being able to see where you want these stories to go, it's the light for me of making these videos. Second, share. I mean, anyone who knows who's done anything with YouTube knows that it's definitely a slow burn kind of thing. It takes a while to be able to build the audience, and being able to share it with your friends, family, people you know, it'll make our work so much easier because we'll be able to reach more people. Right now, I know a lot of our viewers are people who we talk to, friends and family members on the regular, but I'd love to be able to reach out to more people, especially those individuals who don't have that support group, because in the end, I do want this to kind of feel very much like a group of friends or even a family.
Build a community around it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Sounds nice.
And then thirdly, because if I don't say third, people are going to be like, what? Thirdly would just be checking in and commenting, talking to each other about it within the community. Build it, like I was talking about, I do want it to be able to be something where the different individuals, when they read these stories or hear things, they talk around, because maybe you'll find someone in the comments who has a different idea than you that sounds really cool. Just because if you comment and your idea isn't picked this time, that doesn't mean we're not reading it. I promise any comment that's on any of our videos I'll probably have read 5 times and smiled.
Yeah. Where can people find your podcast currently?
So I know we're on Spotify.
Yep.
We're also on YouTube as well. It'll be linked on our Instagram, which is without underscore with underscore dice. It is available on several other podcast platforms. I don't know the full list of that off the top of my head, but there are several others. But the main way and the best way to find us is our YouTube platform, because that's where you can go to be able to actually vote and comment. And yeah.
Great. Maybe we can put some of those other podcasts in the comments of this video for
Definitely.
people to look at.
Yeah, I'll definitely throw a link on there.
Yeah. So what are the most challenging things you've run into so far doing this?
Well, personally, I've never done a podcast before. Just sitting down and editing the videos and things like that. The writing part actually feels easy. I really feel like I could be one of those guys that write 14 books that, maybe someone reads them.
Yeah.
I think I could sit down and write all day, but when I really sit down and start reading it, trying to get it just right and to where it's not choppy, editing out breaths, because, I mean, like you said, people don't want to listen to your breath.
Yeah, I
Things
see
like
a lot of heavy breathing is probably not the best thing for a podcast.
That's definitely been a learning
That's
curve.
definitely a different type of podcast.
Yeah. Indeed.
But I think
enough.
for myself, the hardest thing, honestly, is the nail biting, like waiting and wanting to see it grow. Like, it's definitely like potting a plant. You gotta water it, and you don't want to overwater it, and I don't want to. But like at the same time, I think whenever I first post a video, I'll like come back to it for the next like 8 hours on the hour, every hour, going, oh, do I have 10 views yet? Do I have 15 views yet? Do I have 20 views yet? Like, just trying to watch it and seeing where people are voting and just being excited to see what happens. I think that like excitement and hope is both the hardest and the worst thing, because it's extremely addicting.
I can definitely relate as somebody that's killed a lot of plants by overwatering them. And Well, I certainly hope it grows into something much larger in the future for you gentlemen. Do you have any plans for future stories, or are you just focusing on the four and the new
So-
fifth one?
But we did mention a little bit about adding those extra stories. We're actually thinking about 3.
3 or 4.
So-
We're still decided 3 or 4. We're not sure if we're going to do 4 yet. At the minimum 3. We have one that's kind of going to, we don't want to go too deep into it, but one of them that's going to be touching on the horror aspects, leaning into maybe like a dark carnival kind of scene.
I know. one of
Favorite
these-
trope by far.
I know he has a predilection for that, yes.
Definitely.
Favorite trope by far. You're in for a treat. You're in for a treat.
Another one that's going to be kind of touching more toward the like end of the world, post-apocalyptic scenes. Definitely excited about that. That's one of my favorite tropes, personally. And then you said you were going to do like a Starfinder one.
Correct.
Starfinder, like a science fiction sort of thing?
Exactly.
Ooh.
It's gonna follow a Waisoki.
If any of you guys who don't know who Starfinder is, if you could mix like Rick and Morty with a little bit of Star Wars, that's kind of where you would find Starfinder.
What's a Waisuki?
It's like you know how we have the rat folks and things like that, and
Yeah.
Pathfinder, D&D, things like that.
Okay,
Think more along those lines.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look forward to reading all of those, but that one sounds pretty interesting. Any future plans beyond this podcast? Of any
Eventually,
fantasy or tabletop gaming nature?
Eventually, we're looking at actually opening a bar at some point, but that's much future, and if or when that ever happens, it'll be something
You
that
can dream, right?
yeah, it'll be something that we will update everyone about. It's definitely will be fun though, and we really, honestly, right now this is my main focus. I really want to see this channel grow, and I really want to be able to see this community blossom to a point where I can sit there and comment on all the people who are talking, and be able to reach the people who right now are having trouble.
Do you have any plans for more community involvement? Maybe viewer submitted stories or anything of that nature?
So we're trying to figure out how that would work. It's all right now. It's a little bit more difficult because the small viewer bases. But I would love to be able to take the viewer stories and be able to run with it. Very much like that. It's something that we've kind of discussed a little bit, but until we get a larger viewer basis, it's something that won't be exactly possible yet. But in the future, definitely something we could think about and talk about.
Maybe guest narrators?
Oh, we would love that.
Another thing I'm kind of excited about is having more artists come on to really.
I did notice you had some new artwork in some of the Jean's
Yes,
story.
the wonderful Kelsey Forth. She's fantastic and has done amazing artwork for us. We'd already mentioned our Instagram before. Most of her work has already been on there. I mean, her artwork is absolutely stunning.
Go check it
We'll
out.
link some of that onto this video if you all want to check it out, but there'll be a lot more of
Yeah,
it.
put
She's
all your
gonna
links in the
be
comments for sure.
she's gonna be doing a lot of our
Like thumbnails
Sorry.
and
our
title cards
thumbnails
stuff.
and like she actually redid our thumbnail, like our initial picture that we did actually. It's did some beautiful shading work with that actually. It's amazing.
Very nice. Anything else you want to add?
I think when it comes down to it, I just want all the viewers to know that in the end, it's going to come down to, what you want to do with the stories and things like that. And I really want to see you kind of imagine these worlds we're creating and help us create them. Be a part of it.
And building on that, know that if there's things we can do to improve what we're doing, if there's ideas you have for things we could do to make our stories better, please let us know. Shoot us a comment and we'll listen. I mean, more than anything, we're excited to be able to see you guys get involved. Yeah.
I mean, it really is exciting to see comments and things like that. Just to know that we're out there, we're listening, and we're excited to see where this goes, kind of thing. And if you're not excited, let us know. I mean, like I said, 14 books. I'll drop the first 7 if that's what it takes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Tell me what entertains you.
that's quite fair.
To a certain extent, at least.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
Be writing those kinds, huh?
might get demonetized with those sorts of stories on YouTube.
Should we end it?
Yeah, tagline.
So, normally at the end of each of our stories, we end it with a tagline, just to remind you, kind of like it's all of our stories, and that to let you know that's end.
Let's write a story
Let's play a game.
without
The dice.
All right,
Thanks, gentlemen.
that's a wrap. You're a natural, bro. I didn't know.